and Madeleine offered her cheek to the old peasant, who afterwards wiped his lips with the back of his hand. The old woman, in her turn, kissed her daughter-in-law with hostile reserve. Her ideal was a stout, rosy country lass, as red as an apple and as round. The carriage preceded them with the luggage. The old man took his son's arm and asked him, "How are you getting on?" "Very well." "That is right. Tell me, has your wife any means?" George replied, 40,000 francs. His father whistled softly and muttered, "Phew!" Then he added, "She is a handsome woman." He admired his son's wife, and in his day had considered himself a connoisseur. Madeleine and the mother walked side by side in silence. The two men joined them. They soon reached the village, at the entrance to which stood Monsieur Duroy's tavern. A pine board fastened over the door indicated that thirsty people might enter. The table was laid. A neighbor who had come to assist made a low curtsy on seeing so beautiful a lady appear. Then, recognizing Georges, she cried, "Oh Lord, is it you?" He replied merrily, "Yes, it is I, Mother Brulin." And he kissed her as he had kissed his father and mother. Then he turned to his wife. "Come into our room," said he. "You can lay aside your hat." They passed through a door to the right and entered a room paved with brick, with whitewashed walls and a bed with cotton hangings, a crucifix above a holy water basin, and two colored prints representing Paul and Virginia beneath a blue palm tree, and Napoleon I on a yellow horse, were the only ornaments in that neat but bare room. When they were alone, Georges embraced Madeleine. "Good morning, Mad. I am glad to see the old people once more. When one is in Paris, one does not think of this place, but when one returns, one enjoys it just the same." At that moment his father cried, knocking on the partition with his fist, "Come, the soup is ready." They re-entered the large public room and took their seats at the table. The meal was a long one, served in a truly rustic fashion. Father Duroy, enlivened by the cider and several glasses of wine, related many anecdotes, while Georges, to whom they were all familiar, laughed at them. Mother Duroy did not speak, but sat at the board grim and austere, glancing at her daughter-in-law with hatred in her heart. Madeleine did not speak, nor did she eat. She was depressed. Wherefore? She had wished to come. She knew that she was coming to a simple home. She had formed no poetical ideas of those peasants, but she had perhaps expected to find them somewhat more polished, refined. She recalled her own mother, of whom she never spoke to anyone, a governess who had been betrayed and who had died of grief and shame when Madeleine was 12 years old. A stranger had had the little girl educated. Her father, without doubt. Who was he? She did not know positively, but she had vague suspicions. The meal was not yet over when customers entered, shook hands with Monsieur Duroy, exclaimed on seeing his son, and seating themselves at the wooden tables, began to drink, smoke, and play dominoes. The smoke from the clay pipes and penny cigars filled the room. Madeleine choked and asked: "Can we go out? I cannot remain here any longer." Old Duroy grumbled at being disturbed. Madeleine rose and placed her chair at the door, in order to wait until her father-in-law and his wife had finished their coffee and wine. Georges soon joined her. "Would you like to stroll down to the Seine?" Joyfully she cried, "Yes!" They descended the hillside, hired a boat at Croisset, and spent the remainder of the afternoon beneath the willows in the soft, warm spring air, and rocked gently by the rippling waves of the river. They returned at nightfall. The evening repast by candlelight was more painful to Madeleine than that of the morning. Neither Father Duroy nor his wife spoke. When the meal was over, Madeleine drew her husband outside in order not to have to remain in that room, the atmosphere of which was heavy with smoke and the fumes of liquor. When they were alone, he said: "You are already weary." She attempted to protest. He interrupted her. "I have seen it. If you wish, we will leave tomorrow." She whispered: "I should like to go." They walked along and entered a narrow path among high trees, hedged in on either side by impenetrable brushwood. She asked: "Where are we?" He replied: "In the forest, one of the largest in France." Madeleine, on raising her head, could see the stars between the branches and hear the rustling of the leaves. She felt strangely nervous. Why, she could not tell. She seemed to be lost, surrounded by perils, abandoned, alone beneath that vast vaulted sky. She murmured: "I am afraid. I should like to return." "Very well, we will." On their return, they found the old people in bed. The next morning, Madeleine rose early and was ready to leave at daybreak. When Georges told his parents that they were going to return home, they guessed whose wish it was. His father asked simply: "Shall I see you soon again?" "Yes, in the summertime." "Very well." His mother grumbled: "I hope you will not regret what you have done." Georges gave them 200 francs to appease them, and the cab arriving at 10 o'clock, the couple kissed the old peasants and set out. As they were descending the side of the hill, Duroy laughed. "You see," said he, "I warned you. I should, however, not have presented you to Monsieur and Madame Duroy de Cantel, Senior." She laughed too and replied: "I am charmed now. They are nice people who I am beginning to like very much. I shall send them confections from Paris." Then she murmured: "Duroy de Cantel. We will say that we spent a week at your parents' estate." And drawing near him, she kissed him, saying: "Good morning, Georges." He replied: "Good morning, Madeleine," as he slipped his arm around her waist. End of chapter 9. Recording by Martin Geeson in Hazelmere, Surrey.